Hello and welcome to our first episode of The Nice Lawyer, a new podcast that we'll be hosting here at the Nice Law Firm to discuss legal aspects, your current cases, any number of things related to the legal field. I'm joined today by our managing partner, Bob Nice. He's going to give us his view on a number of things. Bob, I've got some questions for you today here. I hope
I'm
you're
ready
ready.
with some answers.
Hope so. So let's start off with about your practice here, the Nice Law Firm. It's a pretty unique name for a law firm. Aren't most firms the names of partners, or how did you come up with that?
Yeah, traditionally most law firms are Manny, Mo, and Jack, and they all sound kind of the same. Unless you have some real familiarity with one of them, you probably don't really know them, but they just kind of sound intimidating because they have old worldly names. I wanted to evolve past that. I've been in practice for 40 years. Kind of amazing to me, but they say that the days are long, but the years fly by. So I started off working at a large law firm, which had a couple of those old names on it, and many, in fact. And there was a set of pictures at the end of one of the halls. They called it Dead Man's Curve. And it was just these old guys whose names were still on the letterhead, but they were all dead. So I wanted to do something a little bit different than that. I went off on my own after 6 years, and this firm's been in business through its predecessors, and today in 34 years. And it's been 20 years here in the building, the base building we are in Indianapolis. And we've evolved. We have, as of January 1st, we have 8 offices throughout Indiana. But you ask about the name. So it was 2005. I was contemplating moving from downtown to this building. And I had a friend who was in marketing, and I asked them, would it just be crazy to call a business the Nice Law Firm? And he kind of smiled. And his wife is also in marketing, but I asked them both. And she said that would be a great name because, without apology, lawyers in general are kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum from doctors and clergy. And so it's a bit of an oxymoron to say the nice law firm because people think of us as being those cutthroat, aggressive, such. But you know what? It sends a good message, and we've spent the last 20 years putting out that message about that brand. So the joke is people ask me, am I really nice? And I tell them that, well, I was born that way, and you're going to have to decide if I still am. But I think legitimately I can say I am a nice guy, and I try to promote that within all the members of the firm that we treat people well. And that's clients, that's opposing counsel, it's certainly the court, because it's the power of our pen and the sound of our voice that really makes the difference. We do not have to be pounding on tables. We don't have to be screaming and shouting. The key is to know the law and to use it to our client's best advantage.
Certainly. Bob, let's talk about the legal desert here in Indiana. What is that, and what exactly are you doing to help solve that problem?
Well, thank you for asking that question because that is something that I have a lot of passion about. I come from a little one-horse town called Winamac, Indiana. And it was a great place to grow up. 2,300 people in Winamac, 12,000 in the whole county up in Pulaski County. And candidly, I'm one of the infidels who left and they didn't come back. And I wanted to go be a big city lawyer, and I guess I did that. And I've been in Indianapolis for 40 years. But as I get to a point when I start thinking about my legacy and what I want to leave behind, I think about all those wonderful people that I grew up with and who I've still known. I haven't lived in Winamac for decades, but still I can go there and go out for lunch, maybe at One-Eyed Jack's or Poblanos, and I will always see 1, 2, 3, or 4 people that I know. And they remember me, they remember my parents, my family. I still have family up there in that small town, and I get up there often to see them. I was there just 2 days ago. So the problem has become that everyone is concentrated, everyone being the lawyers, have concentrated in the cities. So right now there are 6,000 attorneys in metropolitan Indianapolis. And the joke is that if you come off of 465 onto an exit ramp and you see somebody standing there with a sign, it's probably just a lawyer who didn't get his contingent fee or something. I mean, my goodness. It's really a sad situation. There are so many, it's crowded. I am blessed that I've been here so long. My phone will ring next week. I can't tell you who's going to call, but somebody will, just because I've touched so many lives, literally thousands of clients that I have served over the last 40 years. But if you go a few counties away from Indianapolis, or away from Evansville, or away from Blake County, what you find is that there are very few lawyers, and the bar is aging out. I have a friend, an attorney in Wabash, Indiana, and a year or so ago, he told me, Bob, I'm the president of the local bar association, and we have 28 members. But at age 67, he said he was the fourth youngest member of the group. Well, time wins 100%. And so in these rural communities, the bar is aging out. And my goal for the Nice Law Firm is to provide the expansive scope of services that you can get in the city, but take it back to the rural communities of Indiana. And that's what we're doing. We're opening up our newest office in Rensselaer, Indiana, which opens up that northwest corridor to us. And I am working toward having a presence in my hometown of Winnemac. I hope to do that soon. But meanwhile, we have offices in Indy, of course, but then also in Martinsville, in Terre Haute, in Lebanon, in Greensburg, in Kokomo, in Scottsburg, and now shortly in Rensselaer. So we can cover a great deal of the state. That's our intention. And the wonderful thing is that when we go into one of these communities, we're instantly the largest and most diverse law firm in there because we have 12 lawyers and more coming. So we have a lot of different skill sets. And that's really the key, because oftentimes something will come up in a more rural community and something doesn't happen very often. And perhaps a member of the local bar just may not be familiar with it. It's very difficult. It's challenging for one lawyer to be able to handle all the needs that a person may come across in their lifetime.
Well, certainly. I mean, cases vary from criminal defense to zoning to real estate needs. It could be any particular case type at that point.
So I want to take those skill sets and go back, and any client of ours in the more rural communities has the benefit of these additional skill sets firm-wide. And so almost always, if someone calls us and says, can you help me with this? The answer is almost always yes. But you know what? If we can't, we know the people down here who can, and we'll make sure that we refer them to someone who doesn't look at this once in a lifetime, but rather says, yeah, I do this once a month. And that's really what all of us want, whether it's a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or any service provider.
Bob, you'd mentioned you've been practicing law for give or take the last 40 years here now, and that your phone will ring next week. Guaranteed when it does, that it will be probably a former client with a question. Now, they may be referring you to a current family member or an ongoing case here, but what's that relationship look like with you with former clients and information getting to you? And if you're able to assist, do you assist or do you refer those out? What's your preference there?
Well, first of all, it's very flattering. I've had clients who've been with me for over 30 years, and it's always very flattering when they bring someone back to the firm for assistance. And I will tell you, the most gratifying thing about being an attorney for me has always been to be a champion for someone in their time of need. I don't like bullies, and I don't think many of us do. And so I really relish the opportunity to stand up to the other side that is trying to um, adversely impact my client's situation, and to use the tools at my disposal. And obviously, I've spent years of education, years of practice, honing those skills to be able to do that. And clients are often very well informed, uh, educated, um, interested in their situation, but the reality is that the rules of law are many and complicated. And if you don't have education and experience in the matters of the law, you're just not going to be able to handle it on your own. And that's really where a good lawyer comes in. And I guess we like to say a nice lawyer. And that's a part of it. But maybe the bigger part of it is we take the name seriously. And I've spent many years now trying to differentiate the fact that the Nice Law Firm is not just Bob Nice's practice. It rather is a law firm that treats you well, pays attention, communicates, keeps you informed, adopts the latest technology, is efficient in what we do, and gets the best possible results that we can get for you under the circumstances. And that's our goal, at least, is to, not everybody has a problem that can be a complete winner, but we try to mitigate the situation, and we're happy to tell you up front about the risks as well as the rewards of how we're going to handle the situation and let you evaluate and tell us what's your chosen path.
You mentioned technology. Can you tell me about how that's evolved within your practice and how that has changed your client relationship?
I will tell you that if you talk to a group of 100 66-year-old lawyers, a great majority of them still are adverse to using a computer. They have people around them who do things for them. They may handwrite things out and give them to a paralegal, legal assistant. And you know what? They function that way, but they're not functioning as well as they could. We actually have an ethical duty under the rules of professional conduct to stay current with technology. But above and beyond that, I have just always been an early adopter and an advocate for technology. Now, my undergraduate training was in pharmacy, which is a pretty technical major.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned a lot, even 40 years ago at Purdue, about science and mathematics and physics, and I embrace that. So as things have evolved, and yes, I'm old enough to remember when the internet came along. There was a time when, I grew up without a microwave, and I remember our first color TV. And I don't want to talk about too much of that, but let's just say life was different in the 60s and 70s than what it is now technologically. I think everybody understands that. So fast forward, the internet showed up. We started using email. Great thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started working at the big firm, one of the older partners talked about how great it was when copiers came along, because they used to have to hire secretaries called strikers who could pound through a manual keyboard hard enough to make 6 or 7 carbon copies. Well, thank God we're past that. Documents are a lot longer now because we had word processing. But then really everything became digital, and instead of having paper files, we had electronic files. And then we went from having servers in our office to storage on the cloud. And this has continued to evolve. As big as the internet was in terms of its impact on business and the speed at which it transformed our practice, AI is the future, and the future is now. Artificial intelligence is absolutely taking over. It's a game changer in the way that we practice law. And I think within the next year, there are going to be the haves and have-nots in the legal profession in terms of whether they have embraced AI or shunned AI. Now, it applies in a lot of different places. And the horror stories that many are hearing right now is something called generative AI. Because you can, if you get a motion from the other side, you can put that into AI and have AI write a response. And the problem is there are still issues, and this is just terrible, that AI has what is called hallucinations. And in these hallucinations, they will just make stuff up. AI, I don't know what to call it. I don't even know what the pronoun is for AI. But still, it can make things up. And there have been lawyers, first one I heard of was out in New York, but there's been one recently in Indiana this year who in federal court filed a generated brief that made things up. And I don't know if he's going to be a lawyer for very much longer. I don't know. I know it's been referred to the disciplinary commission because it is below the standard of care for an attorney to file something he hasn't read and verified. So shame on him. But for instance, if you call our office after hours, and I'm giving this away to a few people because already there are people who didn't even know this. If you call after hours or between our lunch break or on the weekend, and when you call our office, it'll say if it's about a new matter, hit 1, otherwise hit 2. If you hit 1, you call about a new case. Janet will answer the phone. Janet is a virtual assistant. Janet will have a conversation with you, and it will sound like a lovely, empathetic 30-year-old female. And Janet will ask you questions just like our client intake specialist will ask you questions when they're talking to you live to screen the case and get the basic information. And that information will be instantly downloaded into our intake software. And so the next business day, when our people show up, they will see that information. And because it's been screened already, because if you call up and say, I was in an accident, so where did it happen? What was the date? Did anybody else witness it? It'll just take you through questions like a person would. We'll have that information. We will know which lawyer in the firm should be working in that case based on the type of case and the geography of the case. And that the client intake specialist will have that lawyer reach out and contact you promptly. And the funny thing is, I just talked with a client a couple days ago who had called last week and talked about the experience of having talked to our, what he called reception. And so I gave them a bunch of information. I said, yeah, I got it actually. How was that call? Oh, they were very nice. They had nothing but positive things to say about Janet. And Janet tells you up front she's a virtual assistant. He must not have caught that. He might have thought virtual because it was over the phone or something. But in any event, it works really well. It is not the AT&T call where you call in to try and pay your bill and says, what are you calling about today? Hit 1 for bill payment, hit 2 for client accounts, 3 for a new account. It's not like that anymore.
Sounds like a very efficient way to capture the information you need to
It
make
is,
the decision you need to make.
it is fabulous in what it does in terms of the efficiency that it creates on both ends for clients and for us in trying to serve you better. So we are embracing those kinds of tools to make our firm better every day. And that is true whether it's in the client intake process, it's true in the way we put things on our website, it's true in terms of processing all of the information that comes to us when our opposing counsel or the court files an electronic document and something comes out, we get notice of that. In the past, a person has processed that, and it takes hours and hours and hours a day to go through those many notices. And very soon, we will have an AI assistant that will do all of that. And it's fabulous because that lets us focus on the important part of representing you because we can be more efficient while we do it, which is going to help keep costs down for the clients. And it's going to be a faster representation. Nothing moves fast in the legal world. I mean, nothing happens in hours and days. It's always weeks and months. But with the use of AI, it's going to shorten that window. And right now, my typical case takes 1.5 to 2 years if we go from the day you come in to the day we get to a trial.
And that's without delay. That's just a normal.
Right, that is normal. And I really believe that with the benefits of AI, that we will be able to shorten that period because sometimes justice delayed is just justice denied.
Very true. Very true. Bob, is a nice lawyer what people really want, or are they looking for more of an attack dog at times?
Well, this goes back to what I said earlier about an oxymoron, the nice law firm. I laugh. There are 100,000 people a day driving by our main office in Indianapolis. It's right on 465. It's 2-story brick with white pillars. And people say, what the heck is a nice law firm? And they start out thinking that you want a junkyard dog. Well, and I understand where they're coming from. I had a client a few years back, it was pretty funny. He said, Bob, you're kind of like a roofer. When I need you real bad. I want you right now. And after you've solved the problem, I'm kind of hoping I don't talk to you for a while. No offense taken.
Mhm.
That's okay. But what they really want is someone who treats them nice, who listens to them when they come in and explain the situation, someone who will tell them up front what their chances are of success or what success may look like in the context of a legal situation. They want to know that you will communicate to them. One of the things we do, and as an aside, personally, one of the things that I have grown in my practice to do, I'm one of very few lawyers in the state who handles plaintiffs' legal malpractice. So I don't sue doctors who make mistakes, but I do sue lawyers who make mistakes,
Mhm.
trying to hold the profession accountable. And so they, when I bring these cases to me, one of the biggest issues I see is a failure to communicate with the clients. And so we have a policy of sending out a status update every month. At the end of the month, either nothing's happened. We say basically, hey, we want you to know we're thinking of you. We're watching your case. Nothing's happened. This is the next thing we expect to happen,
It's
and here we are. And
better to be told there's nothing going on than to sit
nobody
there
ever,
waiting.
right? Because otherwise, sometimes in the legal matter, you may go 90 days, nothing happens, and people get a little anxious
Certainly.
about that. And I hear criticism after criticism from people when they're calling me to complain about their lawyer about he won't return calls. She will not even send me an email. I send an email, they don't respond. And it's always being put off, being put off. And yet they send me a bill every month, but they just can't talk to me every month. So that's not how we treat people at the Nice Law Firm. I mean, we have specific protocols about what we do. And if we need homework, we ask the client for the homework. And most of the time, clients are pretty good about doing their part of communicating with us to bring that in. So we have a concept that we call the power of nice law. And in that, for instance, part of our commitment is we do our very best not to kick the can down the road. So we try to avoid continuation of hearings, getting extensions of time to respond to discovery, because what we know is that if we are paying attention to a file, a lot of times the lawyer on the other side is not. And if they see that we are on it every month, getting our work done, doing what the court has scheduled, or getting responses back to them, they know that we're taking the case seriously, and we tend to go to the top of the pile
We're not
when that
letting
happens.
deadlines expire. We're filing before it's due.
Right. I mean, it's okay for us. There's a case we won last month, and the appeal was filed today at the 30th day, last day. Well, fortunately, we won the case, but if we hadn't and we were going to appeal, an appeal is initiated by a single piece of paper. It's very, very simple. The first part, it just says we're going to take, it's called notice of appeal. We give notice. So we don't wait 30 days just for the sake of waiting 30 days. We might file it the next week. If we know what we're going to do, why waste the time? Because we want a response, we want the case to conclude, we want to push it along. And that just seems to be a mission that very few firms are pursuing these days. I don't know why.
Understood. Can you tell me about our client portal and how that's improved communications there? Or
Thank you for asking about that. That's another piece of technology. So a portal is, I think most people have credit cards, and most credit card companies have a portal. And if you want to sign in, log in, and see what your transactions were, you can do that anytime, day or night. A client portal for us lets you sign in and find out. You can look at your statements, you can pay your bill, certainly. You can see documents. You can upload documents to us to that in a secure manner. And finally, coming this next quarter, our software is going to allow us to share dates. So you'll be able, if you want to see when's the trial date, when's the discovery cutoff, what are the next things that are coming up in our case, that will also be in the portal. And you can be looking at that 24/7. That will diminish, not eliminate, but diminish the number of times you need to call the office. And the reality is, lawyers sell their time. If you call the office and speak to a paralegal or attorney, there's a charge for that. And you can save yourself that money and keep us free to be working on more substantive things by just checking in your portal. And that's, again, something that not a lot of law firms offer. Most small law firms can't offer it because it's expensive to provide that software. But it's really a nice feature to offer clients because they can look online and see what's going on in their case.
Sounds like a great resource and spares
Yeah,
them the phone call, the time.
it's very efficient, and we promote it, and it's not hard to use at all. Literally, we flick a switch on their file to make it available, and then they set up their own username and ID and password, and it's there
That's awesome.
for them.
Can you tell us about the whole range of services the Nice Law Firm provides, Bob?
The great thing about having a sizable law firm is that we do offer a lot of services. So to start off with personal injury, you will not see us on many billboards or on TV. We've done TV, we've done billboards, but not too much. But if you can't miss driving down the highway, seeing a picture of a hammer, or on TV someone snapping their fingers and saying it's just that easy. You know what? Nothing in the law is just that easy. So a little bit of a misnomer there, in my opinion. But what does matter is we are not a one-trick pony, and most of them are. We have handled very large cases, multiple millions of dollars in terms of bodily injury claims, but we do other things too.
Mm-hmm.
So in my one little town of Winnemac, I personally, not the firm, but just I personally have resolved over $10 million worth of claims. And I've done that because people have called me who had a personal relationship with me. They knew me. They knew that I was a nice guy, um, rather than someone who's a stranger to them off of a billboard. Now, granted, some people don't know lawyers. I mean, a lot of people don't know lawyers, and especially out in the rural communities, there aren't near as many around. A legal desert, by the way, is defined as less than one lawyer per 1,000 people. So I know up, for instance, up in Pulaski County, there's I think 14,000 people. There sure are not 14 lawyers in Pulaski County. So they're hard to come by. And then you got to find somebody who does what you need them to do. But with our 12 attorneys and add more all the time, we have people who do a lot of different things. So aside from the personal injury, we do real estate work. And that can be as simple from somebody buying a home. When I was in law school, real estate professor said one day, people ask me whether they need a lawyer when they buy a house. And he said, here's the answer, and it's still true today, is either you don't need me at all or else you need me real bad. And the thing is, there's no way for you to tell which it is, because a house is probably the biggest purchase you're going to make in your life. For most
Certainly.
people, it is. And when you're doing something that deals with hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's something you do once, maybe every 10 years, but we deal with these things literally every week, um, you just can't know everything you need to know. And unfortunately, if 100 transactions, 99 go great and one goes bad, guess which one I see? You know, they come to me after the fact, and I had a case one time when they found that after the fact that there was no hookup to a septic system. It all ran down to the creek. Wow. And then so suddenly they had a real big problem with the Department of Health because somebody
Their
else
pipe
reported.
out back is
Yeah, I mean, literally, it was not good to be downstream from that homeowner. But it had been an older home and it had not been connected to anything, and that was a real problem. So we talk about inspections. People get inspections, and they think that's great, but if you look in the fine print of the inspector's contract, almost always it will limit their damages to the amount they paid for the inspection. So maybe a multiple of that. So there's a lot of things to know. So if you got a real estate transaction, sometimes you get to a zoning issue. You know, sometimes you have a breach of contract. Boundary lines are another big issue. People have problem with adverse possession. So there's a lot of things that come in. Family law. It can be the gift that keeps on giving, I hate to say, because if you have a child with somebody, you know what, you are literally bound at the hip for 19 years. So it's great if you can get along, but the reality is 50% of marriages end in divorce, and many have children, and you've got to work together as adults to take care of those children, but a lot of people have trouble with that. And so you need a strong attorney, but you need a nice attorney, especially in situations like that. The emotional baggage is just dramatic. But that can be from getting a divorce or a paternity situation. Sometimes people aren't married when they have children, on down to a relocation that's going to impact parenting time, or somebody's not paying their support, or there's a change in circumstances, parents being a little bad one side and no one wants to change parenting time. We deal with all those things just routinely. Routinely. Small business is a favorite of mine because I admire small business people. I've run small business for decades, and it's a battle. It's a war out there, and if you're making payroll, you're winning the battle. So we work with lots of small business people and help them out, and from the very inception of setting up their business to dealing with the kind of problems they have along the way, which often is those breaches of contract. Some supplier doesn't do what they're supposed to do, and suddenly you're in a pinch. Who knows? Sometimes you're getting sued by another business. A lot of things come up, and we're here to help when that happens. Um, Nobody likes to talk about this, but I've done some research. I am convinced 100% of us are going to die.
I will agree.
Nobody likes that.
I will agree with that.
Nobody likes that. But it is a given fact that we are mortal, and we don't know what day is our day. And it would be very convenient if we did. It'd be easier to plan if we did.
Certainly.
Because there are all kinds of forks in the road if this happens or if this happens. And lawyers are specifically trained to think about those forks in the road that you're not even contemplating. Well, that would ever happen. I've seen the craziest things, and let's just say sometimes people die at inconvenient times when they're right in the middle of a transaction. And I've got one right now. If this, he was a great client of mine for many years, loved him, but if he died 30 days earlier or 30 days later, it would have made things really easy. But because, I can't talk about the details in that one, but because of the timing of his death, we are in a year and a half long probate battle. So unfortunate, but these things happen. And we had an estate plan, but it hadn't been updated for a while. And it would have been better if it had been updated. So every 3 years, they say you really should have things looked at again. So personal injury, real estate, small business, family law, and criminal law is the last one. And sometimes people make mistakes. Probably very few people set out to get themselves in trouble, but they make some bad decisions. My dad used to say to me, and it's just great advice, never take a short-term view to a long-term situation.
Okay.
All right. So it might be really fun to sit down and have about 3 drinks with your buddies at the bar on a Saturday night, but it is not a good idea to drive home right after that. So suddenly they've got a DUI, and then we find out they're a truck driver. They got a CDL. Oh my gosh. We got a lot of things to deal with. There are defenses. Often, if it's not a pure defense, it's a mitigation. And often a good lawyer, a nice lawyer, can assist you in mitigating the impact. I mean, there is cause and effect. And if you put yourself in that situation, you're probably going to suffer some consequences. But that's the most common one. DUIs, we see domestic batteries where, again, in those family law relationships, people get out of hand once in a while and in a moment of anger get themselves in trouble. And some, of course, there are some other things that are a little tougher yet. But we don't pass judgment. We know what your rights are. We've spent years studying that. We have just some really experienced, really seasoned, criminal defense attorneys in the firm. And if someone has a problem like that, then we'd be happy to offer our thoughts on what we can do to assist them.
Sounds like we're prepared to handle any number of circumstances
Many
here.
things, not everything. And as I said, if we can't help, then we know who can. The bottom line is there are many good lawyers out there, and you certainly have a choice. But what we're doing is we just want to treat you better. And that's the mission, really, of the Nice Law Firm, the power of Nice Law, and our core values. And we post those in every office. You can see them on our website at nicelawfirm.com. And if you do a little looking around and compare that to what you see, I think you'll agree that we've taken a good path.
I would agree. I think it's more than just posting those values. I think it's the embodiment of those values. And I think that adds into what the power of nice law is. Would you agree?
We try to live it every day. Do our best to do it. And I love the old saying from Yoda there is no try, only do or do not. So we consider it a standard of ours at the Nice Law Firm to treat people with respect, to be timely in our communications and our responses, and to try to follow the golden rule, which is treat people like you'd want to be treated under the same or similar circumstances.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Bob. I've enjoyed speaking with you.
I'd like to just add, this is the first episode of the Nice Lawyer podcast. And the purpose today, with me as the founder being here, is to let people know what we're about and what our attitude is toward the practice of law. Now, in the future, we're going to have many of our attorneys to try and let the public get to know some of the personalities here and let them know more about what we do, and try and offer some, for lack of a better word, tips on how they can maybe prevent getting themselves. They say experience is the best teacher, but she's also the most expensive. So if you can learn from somebody else, in this case an attorney, about how maybe to prevent some of those problems, that is just a great way to go.
Well, thank you, sir.
My pleasure. And we also are putting out a newsletter that has just started, also called The Nice Lawyer. And to sign up for that, all you need to do is go to our social media accounts, Instagram or Facebook, under the Nice Law Firm, and just sign in, ask for a question. Your email address will be added. That'll be coming out on a monthly basis. And this is fun. At the end of the newsletter, we have something called Nice to Know. And that's a little column I'm writing, which are tips about things that you probably don't know, but you should. So subscribe to the newsletter and check out Nice to Know. It'll be like old Paul Harvey and the rest of the story, something that you'll find interesting, I hope. And with that, thank you so much for listening to the podcast.